Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, peasants, dead slave serfs, pink slime, bottom feeders, my neighbor's friends, money grubbers, backstabbers. I am a useful idiot, and I want to do a little catch-up on the 2012 GOP election cycle. I've kind of stayed away from it because it's an ongoing, daily thing, and I don't really want to clutter the airwaves with more day-to-day accounting of what's going on in the GOP election, although it's been a really pretty ridiculous campaign for the most part on many levels. As I like to refer to it, a traveling circus tent of freaks, although the freak show is over because all the freaks have dropped out for the most part. Everything kind of unfolded the way I said, because the last time I covered the GOP election cycle was the Iowa caucus videos, and that was a pivotal moment, so I covered that, and I laid down my blueprint for what I thought would happen through the rest of the election cycle, and it pretty much has happened. Santorum did well in the South and the Midwest with his social engineering and fundamentalist message. He ballyhooed, of course, that he's the only true conservative, and he's not conservative. Mitt Romney claims he's the only true conservative. He's not conservative. And Gingrich claims he's the only true conservative. He's not that conservative. So, anyway, they all said that. Gingrich is a dead man walking. He's out of money, and he was only brought in to counter Ron Paul. He's bankrolled by a casino mogul, one of the richest men in the world. He owns casinos all over the world, including China and the USA. And he single-handedly bankrolled Newt Gingrich. And that is my theory, that he was representing Israel's interest in countering Ron Paul, and that's the only reason Gingrich was brought in the race. If he did fine, great, but he was only there to water down the Ron Paul movement. That's an interesting facet of this election cycle, of course, is all these super PACs. I think something like 5 individuals are responsible for 50% of the financing of this election up to a point. We have millionaires like Mitt Romney, or billionaires and like Mitt Romney, and millionaires like Obama asking the average American who may lose his house and job tomorrow to pony up some money for their campaigns, and a certain irony. And then all the other crazy, ridiculous stuff that we have to go through in these election cycles, all this penny ante, distraction, silliness, only good for, 30 second YouTube clips. Romney complaining about Newt Gingrich being a advisor and or lobbyist for Fannie and Freddie, and then Mitt Romney, of course, has investments there. Or, Mitt Romney's feeble attempts to try and paint himself as a regular guy with his putting a new elevator in his mansion for his cars, and making $376,000 from speaking engagements and saying that's not much money, or his wife saying that she doesn't feel like they're that wealthy. This poor guy, he's wearing his mama jeans now, and trying to be, loosen up and be casual. Remember how Gore used to have that problem too, tried to make him look like he was, just a regular guy. And these guys are cut from the same cloth. And so there's our election cycle. But I think the main focus of this discussion of the election cycle, will be 2 things. One is the ridiculous election fraud. Just shameless and pathetic. Every single state now has some level of election fraud to thwart Ron Paul's efforts. And the media collusion. So once again, you have corporate America, the media, the government, all colluding together. The same ones who are putting together the police state, basically blackballing the entire Ron Paul movement. And I think the proof is in the pudding. You see a handful of people at the rallies for the status quo GOP candidates, and you see 4,000 people to see Ron Paul in every state. So we know what's going on. Then they go back to the states and redo things and find out that Ron Paul had quite a few victories, and of course we know he had quite a few more victories than that. But interesting to see what is going on now as we head into the final stretch, and it looks like we may end up with a brokered convention, and it looks like it's still up in the air. I'm really surprised and delighted about Ron Paul's delegate strategy. I didn't foresee that when I did my Iowa caucus videos. I presumed every roadblock would be thrown out against him by every special interest there is in this country and outside this country, and that happened. And he's managed to circumvent that somehow. So hats off to his campaign planner and whoever masterminded that. So, and then let me say a little bit more about that. The staggering level of election fraud. I mean, it's amazing. I know it's probably not unprecedented, but it feels like it should be, that the Republican Party itself would thwart the efforts of one of its own candidates who has the ability to beat the incumbent. So, rather odd, but the level of election fraud is truly mind-blowing. I joked in another video about NATO coming over here with observers to view our election to make sure it's on the up and up like we do other countries. I shouldn't have to even joke about that, but that's the place we are now. So we have voter ID laws, debold machines, which are so easily hacked and manipulated. The whole election process has been undermined and corrupted, and it's very demoralizing, particularly at this juncture in our history. So, and that brings me to my last point about this election cycle, and that is the fact that there are still people out there in the GOP who are so divided amongst these different puppets put up before them, like Santorum and Gingrich and Romney and the like, who are more the same, more status quo. It's very demoralizing to know that the American electorate is not more aware enough to differentiate when a candidate like Ron Paul is in front of them, who, if they had the ability or took the time to find out, would know that. It's pretty obvious once you're exposed to the message. And I hate to be on here cheerleading for Ron Paul. It's pretty obvious I'm a Ron Paul supporter, but what has happened to Ron Paul this election cycle says a lot about our election system. It says a very, very great deal about our election system, and it's not good. So I think everybody should take that lesson away, regardless of whether you support Ron Paul or not. Look at the mechanisms involved and the efforts involved and who was involved and the results of it. Very chilling indeed. And so that brings me to my punchline, which is, so we're going to end up sending these candidates to the convention. It looks like it's going to be Mitt Romney and Ron Paul, which is really, really wonderful. There'll be a lively debates between those two. But the fact that there's still a large portion of the GOP base that's going to go with Mitt Romney without much enthusiasm, without much conviction of his true allegiances and values, and what he plans to offer. And polls have shown that Ron Paul could beat Barack Obama. And I know all this Ron Paul supporters would really love to see a debate between Ron Paul and Barack Obama. Oh, please, please, can we see that? So, please, I'm begging you, GOP base, come to your senses and support Ron Paul. Because if you don't, Barack Obama is going to get reelected. I'm almost sure he's going to get reelected anyway. That seems to be what's in the cards and what the handlers and the masters want. The real power players, the people behind the curtain. And you can help by supporting Ron Paul. Do not reelect Barack Obama. GOP base.